What's up guys, welcome back to Seize the Speed for another review, and today to the left side of me we have a 2022 Dodge Challenger GT with a V6 under the hood. Let's get into it. So the Challenger GT, this is the one right above the base Challenger. So we have the SXT, which is the V6 but without the front splitter, the bigger wheels, and we have a paint matched spoiler in the back on this car, as you can see right here. It has a few other options on the interior we'll get to, but it's pretty much the GT on this as an appearance package. Aside a couple of more options. You can see the GT emblem on the front, the vented hood. Let's get into the most controversial part about a V6 Challenger, and that would be the V6 under the hood. This is the Penstar 3.6 liter that Dodge built in-house after having a bunch of problems with their old 3.8, 3.3, whatever, bunch of other V6s. And this is pretty much the go-to kit engine that goes into every Dodge Chrysler base model nowadays. And to be honest, it's not bad. It's a good V6. It's been showing itself worthy as far as reliability goes, and as far as fuel economy, this thing has this 3.6 liter connected to a ZF8, so it gets about, it's rated for 30 miles per gallon highway, which is actually pretty good for something that kind of looks like a brick. But the issue comes in the form of the power and the torque this makes. So this Challenger makes 303 horsepower and also 268 pound-feet of torque, and for the weight this thing has, it is underpowered. I mean, seriously, this car may, with its plum crazy color and the overall looks, may fool some people, but it is slow. This thing is rated to do 0 to 60 around 6 seconds flat, which, I mean, yes, it's, I don't even know. I mean, I don't have much to say about that. Take it or leave it. 6 seconds 0 to 60 car nowadays is not very fast. But it does save you a bit of fuel. It looks decent, it looks retro. If you want that styling, but you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on fuel, then yeah, it kind of makes sense. And other than that, here's a lesson to Ford from Dodge: hood struts. It's not much to listen to, but here's the exhaust sound of a V6 Dodge Challenger with a 3.6 Penstar. Alright, let's get into the trunk space of the Dodge Challenger. And it's actually pretty big, to be honest. For a coupe, or I guess quote-unquote coupe, because this thing has a longer wheelbase than a lot of economy sedans, it's not bad at all. It has a really large opening. It doesn't go too far back, but that's because this thing actually has usable back seats. Alright, so getting into the back seat of the Dodge Challenger. So I am about 5'10", sitting behind my own seating position. Let's see if this thing closes. Yeah, I have plenty of headroom actually back here. It's not bad at all. It could probably fit, well, definitely could fit another adult next to me, and maybe even a small child in the middle seat. And this car does indeed have a seatbelt for 5 people, so it's not bad at all. My knees are kind of nudged against the seat, but that's the only complaint back here. This is actually one of the most comfortable coupes back seat wise. So another thing on the Challenger that's kind of cool is this cast aluminum gas cap. However, it's not lockable, so anyone could walk up and just mess with your fuel cap. The iconic side profile of the Dodge Challenger. This is a retro muscle car, I guess, that was brought back to life in 2010 alongside Chevy bringing back the Camaro. And Ford was still making Mustangs, but they also brought in a new generation of the retro muscle car. The looks of this one, I believe, is the most iconic out of the three. They did a bang-up job bringing this body style, although it is sitting on a ancient, I think, 08, 06 era Mercedes E-Class chassis from back when Chrysler and Daimler had a partnership together. So definitely is due for an update or an elimination, maybe. Yeah, so this car might be going away, and we might not see a 2024 2025 model at all. or it might come back as the electric format or something maybe with a V6 twin turbo. We don't know yet, but as for this car goes, it has aged pretty well. You know, retro stylings always age better than when they try to do something modern and botch it. This angle back here, the 3/4, is pretty good looking. Some giant wheels for the body style, it fits it. It genuinely looks like a boat. As you can tell, it's a super tight shot. I barely could fit it in my camera. About 10 years into the production, maybe like 8 or 9, it had a facelift, so this is the facelift. By 2010, I mean just the body style, but of course they changed many things, including the interior. So let's hop in there and look at a little bit of what's that about. Hopping into the interior, the Dodge Challenger GT, this is the key that most Dodges use nowadays. It's a pretty good looking key. You would of course get a red one if you had a Hellcat. We got the remote engine start. There we go. All right, let's hop in the interior. You of course have keyless entry on this one. And here we are. Interior of a Dodge Challenger GT. Now this one is not a fully loaded one, so you don't get leather seats or even auto backrest. You actually have a lever on the side to move the back of the seat up and down. You get the smaller screen here. As far as I can tell, there's no Apple CarPlay on this one, unfortunately. No heated seats, these are cloth seats, so none of that jazz. As far as the gauges on the Challenger, they actually have a pretty attractive font. They look nice. This car, as I demonstrated earlier, has a hard limiter at 4,000, so you can't really rev it out all that much. You do have your heating mirrors in this thing, which is kind of nice. Your controls and also this stack right here is straight out of the older models. Kind of reminds me of a toy car, honestly. It's the same exact thing out of old Chrysler 300 or something. It just doesn't look as good as the rest of the interior, like the dash and the center stack right here. You have your cup holders down here. As I mentioned earlier, this car is equipped with a 8-speed ZF automatic, which is honestly the saving grace of this vehicle. I believe that this 8-speed is much superior to the 10-speed used in the Chevrolets and the Mustangs. I think that this one shifts a lot quicker. It has the right number of gears. And also I think this car's fuel economy is owed a lot to this transmission. Also the smoothness of the shifts is a lot better. The trans is just smarter compared to the 10-speed. We do have a pretty good looking Dodge steering wheel. I don't have a problem with these, pretty beefy, nice to hold. We do have the paddle shifters. They're pretty nice feeling, made out of metal. So this one has parking sensors. You can turn them off like that, and it also does have a backup camera, which is kind of tiny. Here's my hand for reference. And it's not the best resolution, but it's there nonetheless. And you do have your parking sensors right there. Aside the typical, you know, Dodge plastics extended everywhere with this lovely cloth, this is actually not a bad place to be. I kind of like the look of this dash. It kept a retro look while actually adding some modern features to it. This is a super upgrade compared to the 2010 interior these cars originally came with. You know, steering wheel, all that, the digital gauges in the middle, that's pretty sweet. Aside that, this is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot in the Challenger GT to go over interior wise. So without further ado, let's get behind the wheel and take this thing for a spin. All right, driving the 2022 Dodge Challenger GT. So as I mentioned, the GT is just pretty much a trim level for looks. It initially started as they wanted to make an all-wheel drive version of the V6, but nowadays you can get the all-wheel drive GT or you can get a rear-wheel drive GT. This particular one is a rear-wheel drive GT. And let's get this thing into a couple of corners and just see if this thing being a boat is actually true. Now this is just the V6, so don't expect much. I'm gonna put it in sport mode. You can definitely feel the weight just pushing you out of the corner. And these cars are definitely tuned for having mounds of understeer before they oversteer. Which, you can see videos of these things at takeovers practicing that and running into people. I mean, it's for safety, you know. these cars are usually mostly used as rental cars, or you know, somebody's daily driver that just wants to have a car that looks like a muscle car, but underneath just has a regular engine to get them by and get good fuel economy. So definitely it drives on the safer side. It's not going to let you do that kick out the back a whole lot. But aside that, I mean, if you just put it out of sport mode, drive it normally around town, it drives like a normal car. It drives heavier than a regular sedan, which is to be expected. This car weighs definitely over 4,000 pounds, so it's you will feel every bit of that. And also it is a longer vehicle. It's a low car, but it doesn't feel like your typical, you know, BMW or even Mustang that you have to worry about scraping. It's really rare that you would scrape in a Challenger. It's sitting pretty high up, kind of like an older muscle car stand. And same thing from your seating position. You have a long hood in front of you. You can kind of see the bulk on the top, and same thing in the back. You don't really see much. That's why you need a backup camera in these. It kind of slopes down, but you know there's a whole lot of car behind you. All right, floor in sport mode, and that's 60. So that should give you a decent idea of how this V6 works. It's actually pretty bizarre because you are not supposed to be hearing V6 noises come out of something this muscle car looking, you know, plumb crazy and all. But it exists, and it's kind of odd, but hey, if you need exactly those particular criterias, something that you can drive to work and back, and you need the looks without the gas mileage compromise, and you don't care about it being a little over 6 seconds 0 to 60 car, then hey, it's not that bad. The 8-speed is the star of the show here, as I mentioned earlier. Shifts are lightning quick, at least for a V6 Challenger, that is. They're really solid. And these paddle shifters feel good, the steering wheel feels good. I think it has pretty good brakes for its weight and size. Definitely drives pretty heavy. It has a good bit of body roll, but that's what you expect from a boat, right? It's a pretty comfy car on the highway though. It has a lot of substance, you know, it sits on the road. Honestly, it kind of sounds like a 350Z. No disrespect to the 350Zs, these sound a lot better, but it's just really bizarre to hear this noise coming out of a Challenger. And I feel like without that ZF8, this car would be a lot slower. It's not that bad. The suspension is a little on the harsher side for just the, you know, base daily. I mean, you're not gonna track this thing, so I don't know why they even bothered making it as stiff as it is. Yes, it eliminates some of the body roll you would expect from this, but takes away from the comfort. And I think the main job of this car is to be comfortable above all, because it doesn't have the sportiest powertrain, it doesn't have the sportiest handling, so least it can do is just give you a nice cabin to cruise in while you're looking pretty good. This particular example, I think for the MSRP is around $35,000. I think the base Challenger starts at $31,900 for the SXT, and a few grand more for the GT, so you get the wheels and the appearance package. And I think this one, the color's a little bit extra, so you know, for a V6 Challenger, it sounds like a lot of money, but nowadays everything is, you know, above 40 grand for a decent car, so you can definitely option one of these above 40 with leather and all that stuff. You can option a EcoBoost for right around there, fully loaded premium. So it's the world we live in nowadays. I mean, say 6-7 years ago, you could have walked into any of the 3 big brand dealerships and leave with a base model muscle car, pony car, whatever you want to call it, for low mid-20s. But that's the price you pay for one of these nowadays. Personally, I would choose a lot of other cars before I get a V6 Challenger, but I understand why people buy them. You know, the fuel economy combined with something that isn't a good looking package, if you don't want to drive something that's just mundane and you see them all over the place. Not that you don't see these all over the place, but you know, you're happy to see your car every time you walk up to it, at least. The Challenger is definitely a good suggestion. Has good looks, has okay features, definitely is lacking in the tech area. I feel like, you know, you could probably get the upgraded stereo and have a lot better time in this thing. Honestly, the handling is not as bad as I thought it would be, and you know, from all the boat jokes. You can definitely feel the long wheelbase and the weight in the corner, but regular driving around at the limit, this thing is doing a decent job of putting a smile on your face. And I believe that is it for the 2022 Dodge Challenger GT. Let me know what you think about my opinions on this vehicle overall. If you own a V6 Challenger, if you owned one in the past, if you're thinking about buying it, what are you cross-shopping it with? You know, EcoBoost. The Camaro is on the verge of death, but it's still a pretty solid option. Definitely a lot tighter of a cabin than this. All that good stuff. I would love to hear all your comments. I read every single one, so leave them down below. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. We're gonna have a ton of more reviews coming out, a lot of different cars. Smash that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Peace out, and I'm out.